everyone, and welcome to 404s of the World, a spin-off series of remarkable engines where I briefly cover the history of an engine numbered 404 in 4 minutes and 4 seconds. For this episode, we'll be covering a 3-in-1 from a well-known fallen flag, namely the New York Central, with 2 of the 3 entries being from subsidiary railroads of the Central, specifically the Boston and Albany and Monongahela. Even though there's almost no info on these 3 engines, hence why they're combined into a single video, they each played a small but significant role in their respective railroads and highlight overlooked classes on said railroads. So with all that out of the way, let's begin. The first of the 3 engines was the only one that was actually rostered directly by New York Central itself, namely a little-known gas rail car, or Doodlebug, from the same class as another rail car that was previously covered on the channel. Specifically, M404 was originally built as M205 by J.G. Rill in 1928 as the second to last of the railroad's PBM class, denoting that it carried passengers, baggage, and mail parcels, a true all-in-one motor car. Like most of the PBM class, M404 could be found all across the various branch lines all over the New York Central system, notably on the Canada's southern subsidiary railroad between Detroit and Buffalo. But like many Doodlebugs at the time, no 2 motor cars were alike, and they were very complicated to operate, often consisting of different levers and many parts from different manufacturers, and the low-density branch lines that these motor cars ran on stood no chance against competition from cars and trucks, as M404 was eventually scrapped. Although, it is worth noting that sister engine M405 was later preserved by the Delaware and Ulster Railroad, while M401 would later be sold and streamlined as Alaska Railroad 216, which had its own episode of remarkable engines. The most well-known 404s of the bunch would undoubtedly be Boston and Albany 404, a rare tank engine that served commuter duties between Boston and Worcester. Although not much is known about the individual engine, 404 was built by Alco in 1928, the same year as the previous 404, as the last of 5 in the D1A class, as it was essentially a tank engine variant of the Central's iconic J-Class Hudson, supported by 3-axle trailing trucks for running in both directions when the train ran around. This class is especially rare for not only being an American tank engine, but for also having an unusual 466 wheel arrangement, likely being the only engines of this type in the world, as some engines were later inherited by the Central and were renumbered in the 1290s range. But even these powerful local legends were no match for the diesel, as 404 along with the rest of the D1A class was off the roster and scrapped by the early 50s, although they did gain a bit of an online following later on for their unique identities as American tank engines with an unusual wheel arrangement. Last but not least is an entry from the Monongahela Railway, a coal hauling railroad near Pittsburgh that was jointly owned by the Pennsylvania Railroad and the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie, another New York Central subsidiary. This 404 was built in November 1952 as one of the railroad's first of 27 Baldwin S12s, one of the last and most numerous types of switchers from Baldwin, along with the most numerous class of engines on the Monongahela roster, where 404 along with its identical sister engines could be found switching various freight cars and yards for longer mainline freights. Combining the Penske's Brunswick green with the Central's lettering, 404 could commonly be found switching in the railroad's Brownsville, Pennsylvania yard until the class was retired and scrapped by the mid-70s, although this 404's legacy still lives on with an HO scale model from Bowser, thus wrapping up the overall legacy of 3 404s on the same railroad. Thank you again for watching. Credit for all the photos used go to their respective photographers, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have a good day.